Hello and welcome to this pre-recorded feedback event for the June 2015 examination for Unit 7, Travel and Tourism Business Environments. To help you get the most out of this feedback, you may want to have the following documents handy, as we will refer to them throughout the session. This will include the question paper, the mark scheme, the lead examiner's report, and the specification. Here are the aims and objectives of today's session. You will receive feedback on performance of learners of the June 2015 examination series. Consider questions where significant numbers of learners underperformed and possible reasons why. Discuss the lead examiner's report. Consider delivery strategies and share good practice. Address common issues. Find out about further support available. Content. Open the specification at Unit 7. There are 3 learning aims for this unit. Learning Aim A. Know that there are a variety of types and structures of travel and tourism business organizations, and understand how different business functions interrelate. Learning Aim B. Understand the trends in the travel and tourism sector and be able to interpret these. Learning Aim C. Understand why travel and tourism businesses develop new opportunities to grow and change their products or services, and the outcomes of changes on the business. Under each of these learning aims fall a number of different topic areas. As the exams progress, it is anticipated that each learning aim will be used for both the more straightforward questions and also the more complex ones. Skills or knowledge tested. All questions asked are carefully mapped to specific areas of the specification. More straightforward questions will ask about the knowledge of the specification, such as, for example, types of business ownership or product or service trends. More complex questions require learners to apply their knowledge and/or show understanding of how different scenarios can affect business decisions and outcomes. Structure of assessment. All exam papers will be 60 minutes long and worth 50 marks. The paper will consist of a number of structured questions, some with subsections. Some questions and subsections will be based on background and stimulus information provided in the exam paper, such as images, text, and data. The examination consists of a variety of question types, including multiple-choice questions, short outline, state, name, identify questions, longer explanation questions, and one extended writing opportunity at the end of the paper. The multiple-choice questions, and many of the short-answer questions, require learners to know the learning aims and topic areas of the specification and the terminology linked with these. Many of the questions are straightforward recall of information. For example, question 1A, B, C, and D were all linked to a bed and breakfast run by a sole trader, Fausia. Learners were required to use the information provided to identify business size, ownership, and external services that support business functions. Most learners gained marks on this question. If they knew the terminology from Learning Aim A in the specification, they were able to answer these questions and gain marks. Learners should know the terminology associated with this unit and all learning aims thoroughly in order to answer the multiple choice and short answer questions. Question 1D was a question that many learners should have scored well on, and many learners were able to gain 1 out of the 2 marks available here. The response above shows how one learner gained the 2 marks available. They provided 2 advantages linked to being a sole trader, which did not repeat each other, and were specified in the mark scheme. This response also gained the maximum 2 marks available, as again, the learner demonstrated knowledge of types of business ownerships and their advantages. This slide shows an example of why learners gained fewer marks on this question. The learner has provided 2 answers here, but they are really describing the same advantage: maintain control. There is nothing in the second answer that hasn't been covered in the first answer. Therefore, this learner gained 1 mark. Unfortunately, many learners gave responses that were very similar, which meant that many learners were only able to gain 1 mark out of the 2 marks available. The learner has provided 2 answers here, and both are valid cultural trends in the travel and tourism sector. Therefore, this learner gained 2 marks. Pink tourism is not included in the mark scheme. Pink tourism is travel and tourism from LGBT visitors. For example, a Mardi Gras event, such as London Pride. Other appropriate examples are valid and worthy of 1 mark, which is the case for this answer. The learner has provided 2 answers here, but neither are examples of current cultural trends. Therefore, this learner didn't gain any marks. Unfortunately, many learners gave responses that were not examples of cultural trends. This may have been because they didn't understand the term cultural trend. Learners tended to struggle more with 4-mark questions, particularly those requiring explanation. One question where many learners struggled was question 5B. Explain 2 reasons why wow walking has created wow cycling. One response that gained 3 marks is shown above. Many learners tended to limit their responses with a valid reason, but did not include an explanation as to why they have given that reason. For example, the first point provides a reason being to target a whole new market, and explains that this reduces the reliance on walking holidays, and may encourage new customers to book. This answer is worthy of 2 marks. The second point is valid for 1 mark, as to why an organisation would introduce a new brand due to external influences. However, it does not go on to say how this would increase business, as this may or may not happen. Unfortunately, this answer was awarded 1 mark, as there was no expansion point. Another 4-mark question is question 7C. Here, learners were required to focus on fly cruise statistics in a table of cruising information. The statistics were variable, and learners were expected to provide 2 reasons for the change in fly cruise passengers. This question was not well answered. The response shown was awarded 2 marks out of the 4 marks available. The first mark was awarded for more popular and they were more affordable in the first answer, and the second mark was awarded for the second identification point, suitable for families to take their children on. Neither answer gives a linked explanation, therefore only 2 marks were awarded. Let's look at the 2 previous questions, and look at the responses that only scored 1 mark out of the 4 available. Question 5B. The focus of this question should have been on why a business creates a subsidiary company. The first answer gained 1 mark, as cycling has increased in popularity due to recent events. And it is common for organizations to use the growth in popularity to capitalize and introduce new products or services. The response does not, however, expand on why or how this will make a difference to WOW walking, and therefore they miss the opportunity to gain an additional mark for focused application. The second answer gained no marks, as learners should be aware that creating a new subsidiary company does not automatically mean more money or customers, and would not be a primary reason for a subsidiary company to be created. Question 7C. 2 answers have been made by the learner. The first answer is not related to the question at all. The second answer gained 1 mark for stating that more people are choosing to cruise from their local ferry terminal, and there is now more choice in cruising from the UK rather than fly cruises. The learner did not expand on their response to gain the additional mark. Learners were required to look at the structure of the question and the command verb, explain. Learners who did this performed better. If 2 explanations are required, half of the marks will be awarded for the first response, and half will be awarded for the second response. So make sure to give 2 responses. Learners need to read the scenario and question carefully in order to understand the focus of the question and apply responses to the scenario. Activity 1. Look at the example answer provided here for question 4B. Using the mark scheme, decide what mark you think should be awarded and why. You may wish to pause the video to carry out the activity and refer to the question paper and mark scheme. Answer to Activity 1. Explain the marks awarded to this response on the slide. Know the specification, look at the question and scenario clearly, and provide applied answers. Activity 2. Look at the example answer provided here for question 8A. Using the mark scheme, decide what mark you think should be awarded and why. You may wish to pause the video to carry out the activity and refer to the question paper and mark scheme. Answer to Activity 2. Explain the marks awarded to this response. Key message is for learners to read the question and scenario clearly and provide applied answers. Where 2 ways are asked for, learners must provide 2 different ways and follow this with an explanation as to how the way will help respond to the threat of competition from rival airlines. In this example, the second response does not give an expansion point. Question 8a looked at Learning Aim C in the specification, referring to C2 opportunities for business development from developments in technology, social media. It was an explain question, which looked for 2 ways for social media to be used as a tool to help with the threat from rival airlines. Reasons learners did not score well in this response was that TV and websites are not valid examples of social media, and therefore although advertising cheap deals may be a way to respond to rival airline threats, the question refers specifically to social media. Overall, this answer was awarded no marks. Learners didn't tend to provide fully developed answers, which related to the scenario and question. If 2 explanations are required, half of the marks will be awarded for the first response and half will be awarded for the second response. So make sure to give 2 different responses that each give 1 way followed by a linked explanation. Learners showed a lack of understanding of how social media can be used by travel and tourism businesses to respond to rival competitors. Another 4-mark question is question 8c. Here learners were required to focus on how Firefly Airways could continue to offer meals and snacks but without reducing their profits. Learners were expected to provide 2 ways and explain how each way would maintain levels of profitability. This answer was awarded 3 marks. The first response awarded 1 mark for offer customers a limited choice, and 2nd mark was given for the explanation to get more for their money. The second response was awarded 1 mark for offering lower quality snacks, but there was no expansion point given. This question demonstrated that learners had some good ideas. The answer shown was awarded 1 mark out of the 4 marks available. The mark was awarded for raising prices on duty-free goods. In the first response, however, there was no expansion point provided to gain a 2nd mark. The second response, charge a bit extra for tickets, is not a valid answer, and therefore only 1 mark was awarded. Refer to the lead examiner's report for further guidance. This last question is the extended writing question and allows the learner to provide a creative response to the provided scenario and question. The mark scheme is different, as the question is marked against different levels. The criteria for each level can be seen in the mark scheme and follows levels 1 to 3. For example, level 1 is where a few points are identified, or 1 point is discussed in limited detail. The answer may be in the form of a list, points will be superficial or generic and not applied or directly linked to the situation in the question. In this instance, learners were provided with a scenario based on a new, modern, all-weather visitor attraction opening near to an existing outdoor visitor attraction, and how this could affect the existing visitor attractions business. The significant majority of learners attempted and gained Level 1 mark band for this question. This is an example of an answer which received 3 marks Level 1 mark band. The learner has understood the question, yet their answer is focused on advertising and promotion and forms more of a list than a balanced view or description, with no links to the scenario or stimulus provided. Therefore, Level 1, 3 marks, was awarded. This answer scored 6 marks, and it is much more representative of a Level 2 response. The learner has structured their answer and discussed a few key points which are relevant to the scenario, such as special offers and deals, use of social media, carrying out market research. The learner has also backed up their point on social media by providing information on how many people use or have access to the Internet. This has meant that the learner was awarded the highest mark in the Level 2 mark band. Refer to the lead examiner's report for further guidance. Activity 3. Look at the example response here for question 8b. Using the mark scheme, decide what mark you think should be awarded and why. You may wish to pause the video to carry out the activity and refer to the question paper and mark scheme. Answer to Activity 3. Explain the marks awarded to this response. Key message is for learners to read the question and scenario clearly. This question was not well answered, and many learners appeared not to have read the question and understood what was required. Where one way is asked for, learners must provide one way and follow this with an explanation as to how the way will help the airline with a business opportunity during the strike. In this example, the response does not give an expansion point. However, by promoting themselves during the strike, this is one way the strike has provided Firefly with a relevant business opportunity. Refer to the lead examiner's report for further guidance. Activity 4. Look at the example response here for question 9. Using the mark scheme, decide what mark you think should be awarded and why. You may wish to pause the video to carry out the activity and refer to the question paper and mark scheme. Answer to Activity 4. Explain the marks awarded to this response. Key message is for learners to read the scenario and accompanying stimulus carefully in order to understand the requirements of the question. In order to gain higher level marks for this question, their answer must be well planned, cover all aspects, and be more descriptive with applied reasoning for suggestions. Points raised should be linked to the scenario. Refer to the lead examiner's report for further guidance. You should now pause to read the lead examiner's report. Please note that all of the questions on the exam paper have been commented on in the lead examiner's report. This is another resource for you to use to help understand the requirements of each question and to see what sort of responses were given by candidates and how they were awarded marks. Some of the information from it has been used in this presentation, and if you are able to spend some time reading it, I am sure it will help you gain further understanding. The report can be given to learners so they can see for themselves what is required for the different types of questions and how they can be awarded marks. Common issues during this examination series were learners not making use of the scenario within answers. Centres could make more use of practice papers or write their own questions. Learners not reading the questions fully. Many learners managed their time ineffectively. Centres could use timed assessment in the classroom to give learners some practice at managing their time. Please note that this part of the presentation is dealing with the delivery of the qualification rather than the exam. Here we are looking at ideas to deliver the specification. For example, 1. Practical-based learning sessions, using role play for example. 2. Mapping or integrating units across the centre. Although this can be an arduous task, it is proven to be beneficial in many centres. 3. Scenarios or contexts. Use these so learners get an idea of the different vocational scenarios. 4. Use of delivery guide. It is a useful document, but concentrate on each section of the specification. Use learner experience where possible and appropriate. 5. Group work. Learners can help each other understand topics. 6. Research. Look at the how and why, rather than just using. 7. Projects. 8. Exam techniques. Use this presentation and the lead examiner report to explain to learners the different exam techniques, especially where they might not be obvious when looking at a question such as explain. 1 mark for identification, 2nd mark for justification or expansion. 9. Sample marked learner work, available online for all centres to view for core units. 10. Enter learners when they are fully prepared, so they will be able to achieve the best mark possible. This slide includes details of where further support is available. This is the key web page for customers to be aware of for support and guidance with the BTEC Travel and Tourism qualification. For further guidance and support with the delivery and assessment of BTEC, see our full training offer here: www.btec.co.uk/training. Any further questions to be directed to the Subject Advisor for Travel and Tourism, John Walton. We constantly look to improve the delivery of our training and appreciate all delegate feedback. You will soon receive an email directing you to our online feedback form. Thank you for your time.